All right, welcome to Say What I Mean once again. Now, if you didn't watch my last video, it was a thorough breakdown of Biden versus Trump on foreign policy. And what I did was give my reasons why I came to my conclusions, um, just life experiences, why I think the way I think. Again, we all have biases, you know. You can try to be objective, but we all have a point of view, and life experiences make us the way that we are. Stuff that we've been through lead us to think a certain way. And I think it's more interesting when we share those reasons rather than just be like, oh, okay, I'm completely neutral. No, you're not. You're not. We all have a point of view, and that's okay. Just explain why you come to these conclusions. That's it. Explain your bias, and that's what I'm going to do. I obviously do have a bias. I stated before I'm going to vote for Biden, and I'm going to explain my reason. Now, one thing I did leave out of the foreign policy video was Cuba. That's another reason why I edged, even though I don't think Biden is great versus foreign policy. I don't think he blows Trump out when it comes to foreign policy. Um, I do think that it was long past due to get rid of the embargo. The Obama administration moved towards that with opening relationships with Cuba. The Trump administration reversed that. And I'm confident Biden will go back to the previous Obama era strategy. And that was just one more reason why I prefer Biden over Trump when it comes to foreign policy, even though parts of Biden record on foreign policy is a absolute disaster. Now, going forward, before I go into the new policies, make sure you subscribe, share the video if you like. Definitely trying to grow the channel. But let's get into it. So many other stories, they give you the horse race and who's up, who's down. There's plenty of people doing that. Um, I'm going to focus more on policy in this particular video because I still, at this point, I think Biden is more than likely to win, but I wouldn't be shocked if Trump were to pull it off. I do still think there's a route Trump can take to win. I think Biden got more paths, but who knows? Let's sit back and hopefully there's no fuckery during this election cycle, and hopefully we'll know tomorrow, but most likely it's going to take a little while with the mail-in ballots. So we'll see. Let's start though with COVID response. Um, I'm not a huge Biden fan. I didn't support him in the primary. He was one of the last Democrats that wanted to get this nomination. But with that being said, I trust him more on COVID response than I trust Trump. Why is that? Because somehow Trump and the Republicans made just wearing a simple mask to help prevent the spread of COVID into a partisan issue. It boggles my mind, doesn't make sense. And I think this actually have hurt Trump. I think if he would have managed COVID a little bit better, he probably would have cruised to re-election. That's just my opinion. But the fact that he managed COVID so poorly, and now that we know, he knew it was a serious problem ever since March. We talked to Bob Woodward. Somehow he let him record him saying that he wanted to downplay COVID because he didn't want the country to panic. If he knew it was so serious, he should have had serious policies, and he just didn't. Trump had mismanaged COVID from the beginning and still continues to mismanage COVID. He's still throwing large events. Large events, people don't have masks, people not social distancing, and it's just crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy that you can still mismanage COVID at this point. I'm just shaking my head right now at that. I don't understand why he just won't won't tell people to wear a mask. That's what I don't understand. I don't understand why it's such a big issue for them. It's like somebody that's get caught on something, instead of just admitting that they wrong, they want to double and triple down. And I think that's what Trump does. A lot of times he double and triple down and don't apologize. I think that worked for him in 2016, but this time's it causing real pain. Not only just health wise, COVID have exposed how poor our health system is, and also, and it had disastrous economic effects. It affected people losing their jobs, people having to go down part time. Small businesses are having to shut down their business or feeling like they might not survive. I mean, um, and the COVID release bill that was passed, it didn't address the problem. It was the one-time check of $1,200. It was the PPP fund that was supposed to go to small businesses, but most small businesses didn't end up getting the money. It's ridiculous. So I trust that Biden will handle this situation a little bit better. That's for one. And speaking of COVID, let's go into healthcare. So Trump really don't have a healthcare plan. Let's just put it out there like that. This is one of the deciding factors in. I don't really love Biden when it comes to foreign policy. I don't love him when it comes to criminal justice reform. But when it comes to something like healthcare, you can't compare the two. Biden actually have a healthcare plan. I don't think it goes far enough, but at least he have a plan. Trump plans basically to overturn the ACA, which they have been dismantling step by step. They already took away the individual mandate. Um, they claim that if they throw out the ACA, that they will protect pre-existing condition. How? If the law is overturned, the pre-existing condition parts of the ACA is overturned with it. And the Republicans have not came out with the official plan yet to deal with the healthcare problems that we have. One thing that Trump always say is that he wants more competition, but a lot of when they say that, sometimes they mean those junk insurances that the ACA got rid of, because when you have those junk insurances that have their deductibles is so high that something happened to you that you might as well not even have assurance. So I was in a situation a few years ago, right, where my job had one option for insurance, right? And it was so expensive and the deductible was so high, but I was stuck what I was going to do because I tried to go to the healthcare markets that was expensive. And basically I was boxed in. I was forced to take my employer insurance because it happened to be the best option, but it still wasn't a good option for me at the time. So something has to be done about our healthcare system. ACA was a good start, didn't go nowhere far enough. Biden particular plan is to basically restore the ACA and add a public option. Now, me personally, I would prefer single payer, but I understand there's different opinions on this. I think Medicare for all or single payer would be a hard pill for a lot of Americans to swallow, especially at once. That's a radical change happened at one time. I think the way change happened, unfortunately, you have to go step by step. And although I would prefer a single payer system, public option could be a bridge to that. And with Biden plan offering a public option, when I was in that situation, I would love to have something like that. I would love to have a public option to go to and possibly had a better option than my employer-based insurance at the time. That would have made a real difference for me there. So they call it Medicare for all or single payer, but what Bernie was offering is kind of more like Medicaid. And I think Biden public option probably be more like a Medicaid option available for everybody, more than Medicare. But the other parts of healthcare that Biden's talking about, he's giving tax credits for people that's within 100 to 400% of the federal poverty line. And the federal poverty line just under 13,000. Um, so just above 100% of that is just below 13,000. So if you have a two family household, um, it's about 51,000, I believe, or 400% of the Siegel of the 100. Yeah, see, I'm not a math major. I always mess up that math. But basically, if you make a little bit above 51,000 with 400%, that would be the cutoff line, about 400%, and you can get some of these tax incentives. So that's basically what it is. Now, let's move on to another policy issue, because I think Biden definitely blows out Trump when it comes to healthcare policy. But one of the things that is a little bit closer is when it comes to criminal justice reform / police reform. Now, neither one of them is really good when it comes to police reform. Now, neither one of them are with the defund the police movement. And when I mean defund the police, it doesn't mean to pull all funds away from police departments. It means like the incident that happened in Philadelphia, it'd be a mental health professional responded instead of the police, because police officers are really not trained to deal with those type of situations. It need to be mental health professionals responding to those types of instances, or it should be a line where people could call people that is specifically trained to deal with these type of situations. So neither one of them support that. They both really calling for more police officers. Biden history is horrific. Trump history, while bad, is not as bad as Biden's on this. A lot of his statements, Trump's statements are bad, but he wasn't in office when he made some of these bad statements, like the Central Park 5 situation, horrific. He called for those young men to get the death penalty. Even after it was proven he was innocent, he still called for them to get a death penalty again because he didn't want to admit that he was wrong. He joked and kind of egged on police officers to rough up their suspects even more. Terrible. But he was able to pass the First Step Act. When I say he passed it, Congress passed it. He signed it. But, Jared Kushner did have a part in it. So credit where credit is due. It's not the end all to be all. Definitely doesn't go far enough. But in his platinum plan, he is proposing a Second Step Act, which will go a little bit further. Do I believe that the Republicans will pass it? I'm really skeptical, but we'll see. Biden has a plan, giving $20 billion in competitive grants to spur states to shift from incarceration to prevention. They will receive it by removing mandatory minimums for nonviolent crimes and earn credits, which is good, but Biden have a major part in the criminal justice and mass incarceration this country faces right now. Not just with the 94 crime bill. People always talk about that, which did contribute to it, because the 94 crime bill, it incentivized states to build prisons because they got money and grants to build prisons. Therefore, some of the states start coming up with even harsher penalties to minor offenses to help keep those prisons occupied. Also, the three-strike law was in the 94 crime bill, which shot up prison population as well. So, and along with that, they put the Violence Against Women Act in it, which I'm not against, but it boxed in some of the politicians that would have voted against the specific piece of legislation. So, 94 crime bill was terrible, but beyond that, Biden was one of those get tough on crime Democrats and politicians in the 80s. He was pushing Reagan. He was pushing George H.W. Bush, saying they wasn't going far enough. He also worked with humans, piece of garbage like Strom Thurmond, with some of these get tough on crime bills. So, yeah, Biden history is not good when it comes to this at all. His plan going forward is pretty decent. Again, doesn't go far enough. So one of the things that he is doing, because of 94 crime bill, like I mentioned, it did give money to build prisons. He proposed to stop building and make private prisons legal on the federal level. Now, again, he helped contribute to it, but it is something. And to be fair, the Obama administration, President Obama signed an executive order for this, but the Trump administration overturned this. So that's a knock against Trump, a major knock against Trump as well. So they both have flaws with this. Like I said, I give credit to Trump with the First Step Back, but Biden was president. Would he veto a First Step Back? No, I think he would have signed it to. Neither one of them is really particularly good with this. Also, neither one of them are talking about getting rid of qualified immunity, which that's the only way you're really going to stop all these police shootings, because qualified immunity basically state what a reasonable person would do. Well, that's very subjective, until we address that and deal with the consequences, these shootings are going to happen over and over. Now, Trump really doesn't deal with this at all, at least in Biden part. He's talking about giving more power to the Department of Justice, which his administration, or the Obama administration, did during President Obama terms. Under President Obama, the Department of Justice, even though it's supposed to be separate from the White House, but the president chooses the attorney general. So how separate it is, But under Obama's DOJ, Ferguson was investigated. They had to enact reforms. Baltimore City Police was investigated. They had to enact reforms. So it was better than nothing. Didn't go far enough, but under a Biden administration, I think we'll go back to that at least, which, in my opinion, is better than what Trump offering on that specific piece right there. So overall, for me, is really healthcare that is the deciding factor. And also the economy too, because although Trump always bragged about how well the stock market was doing and how the economy was just buzzing, how great the economy was doing, to me, I just look back at history. The same thing happened under George W. Bush, and it was a bubble. Granted, to be fair, part of that was on Clinton as well, because some of those deregulation policies happened under his administration. The deregulation of the banks, that first happened under Clinton, but it continued under Bush. The housing bubble under Bush, and these tax cuts under Bush. Yes, it spurred economic growth initially, but then all that just came crashing down. Now, something similar is happening now. And let's just be honest too, Trump economy was just a continuation of the Obama recovery. And now, since COVID hit, it just plummeted. And I think it was going to slow down. And there was economists talking about we was going to hit a recession anyway, just because salaries wasn't really going up. Yes, the unemployment was low, but it was just a continued trajectory of the Obama administration policy. If I'm a little bit distracted too, my cat right here, he trying to get into the conversation. So while I was talking, he up there like I don't know what he was doing. He was like nibbling at my feet. So excuse my distraction. Hey Remy, I'm trying to make a video. I'm trying to talk about Biden and Trump here. All right, you good? You good now? All right, thanks. So that's one of my cats. Me and my wife cats. So anyway, like I was saying, it was just a continuation from the Obama era policies and recovery. And then COVID hit. Now we at what 7.9% unemployment, and you can blame COVID, but my retort to that is you give Obama a pass with all those jobs that was lost during his first month of his presidency because of the Great Recession and the banks crashing. Most people don't. So if you're not going to give Obama a pass with that, you can't give Trump a pass with this either, especially since his handling of COVID was so poor. So I think Biden would do I won't even say a little bit better, would do probably significantly better than Trump when it comes to the economy. I also think Biden blows out Trump when it comes to environmental issues. Now, environmental issues is something that a lot of people don't think about, but for me, it's very important. It's not just climate change. That's what most people tend to think about when we talk about environmental issues, but it's more than that. It's about communities like the community in Louisiana that have the DuPont plant that was that toxins is going into the air, and their rate of cancer is about 20 times higher than the national average. There's places like that all over the country that just don't get mentioned. I'm sure we all remember the Flint water crisis, and that did happen under the Obama administration, which I'm not blaming the administration for that because that's mainly the fault of the states. But we need tougher regulations when it comes to drinking water. And Trump and his administration have made it worse. They have deregulated the EPA so much that it's almost like we don't even have the EPA right now. They're making it easier for companies to pollute our water. This is dangerous. This is highly dangerous. So that's another issue that I gotta vote for Biden. It's a major issue. So that's what I gotta say with that. Let me see. I have some comments on the side. Let me see. Lola J, I think crime is a major issue. I know I keep going back to it. Yes, it is. Let me see what else you say. I would never drink tap water where I am, and I'm in a good neighborhood. I feel you on that. I don't drink tap water either. I always use a filter, especially after this Flint situation. And for those of you who don't know, it's not just about Flint because a study was done, and it was about 30 areas that had lead levels equal or greater to Flint. There was areas in the Bronx. There was areas where I'm at in Buffalo, all over the country that had significant lead in their water. So I always use a filter, and I advise y'all to do so too. I don't know if y'all remember back in the days, but in the 90s, a lot of us had to boil water before we had to drink it. You know what I'm saying? I remember doing that a lot. I used to live in the Bronx. Yeah, it's serious out there when it comes to drinking water. It is crazy. We need a real environmental policy to address some of those issues. Also, it could get to infrastructure, it could get to transportation. Um, all that plays a role in it. So Trump kept saying that he was going to do this infrastructure bill and infrastructure week. It never came. It never came. There's so much stuff that the government could be doing. Our infrastructure get a grade of D minus. We have bridges that's in just terrible shapes. On top of that, these pipes, these old lead pipes, they can get redone. That's millions of jobs that we create and make the environment safe. I mean, we could do this. We could do this, but will Biden do this? I trust him more to do it than Trump. But to be honest, I don't really trust him to do it either, to be honest. But I do think we do need to change presidencies, and I think we could pressure Biden more than we can pressure Trump, because especially in the second term, what reason do Trump have to respond to us in the second term? Zero. You know. Also, you gotta think, if Trump wins, most likely the Republicans keep the Senate, and just something like COVID relief. Mitch McConnell already said they don't have the votes for a COVID relief bill in the Senate. They trying to do austerity and just cut spending, although they put trillions of dollars on the debt with the tax cuts. You know how they do. And definitely big shout out to you, Ola J. So you asking, so what is the number one issue you're voting on, or top three? My number one issue that I'm voting on is, it sounds funny, but it's really just to give somebody in office that have that, for my point of view, we have a better chance of pressuring. I know that's not really an answer like that, but that's how I think. Who's in the office, I have a better chance of getting some of the policy objectives that I want accomplished. And for me, that's Biden. So for one, healthcare, major issue for me. Because that's a life and death issue. Life and death. Sometimes people don't think about it like that. I was talking to one of my friends, right? And he said that everybody in his area have Medicaid. And I was like, that's cool, but you do know that the Republicans been fighting for years to cut Medicaid. So Medicaid get cut, what's going to happen? Also, the original part of the ACA was Medicaid expansion for all the states, but the Supreme Court struck it down, said you can't mandate states to accept a Medicaid expansion. So that's why the states had to opt in. That's a major issue to me. Another issue is just like, how do Black people fit in these specific policies? Now, when people say Black issues, that's very broad, because for one, we don't all think the same, and there's different issues for Black people depending on what part of the country you're in. So, you know, I don't want to speak for all Black people, but there is underlying issues that I think affects most of us. For one, policing issues, because even when I was in the military, I felt the policing issues. For example, when I was stationed, when I was in the Air Force, when I was in the Panhandle, I got targeted all the time, and I was a member of the military, and they knew it, and I still got targeted. You know, so who's going to get rid of qualified immunity? That's what I'm looking for right there, because what's the consequences to police abusing their power? What is the consequences of that? Okay, you might get fired, but nobody get going to jail and you know, crowdfunding is raised for them. Why wouldn't this keep happening? You know, so that's major for me. And you said you're a Black woman, and Black women is getting targeted too now. You know, before it was a issue. I won't say exclusively for black men, but it was always portrayed as just black men. But then we seen what happened to Sandra Bland. You know, we saw what happened to Breonna Taylor. No justice for her. No justice at all for her. You know, it is crazy. And you had a black man as attorney general who lied to the grand jury. You know, granted, the black man was a Republican, but just unacceptable. Unacceptable. Um, there are issues that both black men and black women are facing that it just some of our colleagues don't even think about. Um, Black women, one of the issues for black women becoming very educated, right? But still, when it comes to pay, they're not getting paid like their education worth. It's happening with black men too, but specifically for black women, because if you look at college rates, black women are going to college and get degrees more than black men. For black people in general, we have about the same chance of getting a job of our white counterparts that only have high school degrees. You know, which is a real problem, especially because black women are getting educated at a higher rate and get educated, is student loans. So the pay disparity is outrageous. So this is more of us coming together and talking about how we're going to address these problems. And one of those problems is I don't think you could ever fully address that with the federal government. Because yes, you can have inclusion policies, but it's still going to be a good old boy network. What we need is our own. We need black businesses. And when I look at Biden and I look at Trump, now people talking about Trump platinum plan and taxes, but if you go to Biden website, his plan is more thought out when it comes to black businesses. His plan on giving the Small Business Administration more money for black businesses is better than Trump. It's more specific, it's more thought out. If you haven't, definitely go to Biden website. Oh, you own a business? Lola J, you own a business. What business do you own? You don't mind me asking. Definitely. Because if we own businesses, that means we can hire people that look like us. And part of it is human nature because people do hire who they're comfortable with. And that's just what it is. So it's last year, 12 years ago. Congratulations, Salted Fern, Natural. All right. I salute you for that. I salute you for that. Definitely. And that's what we need to start doing. We definitely need to start opening our own business. So when I look at politicians, not just at the presidential level, at the state level, at the local level, who policies most likely going to lead me to that goal? And, a lot of times, neither one of them, sometimes we don't have good options, but sometimes, yes, pick the lesser of two evils. And then next election, press them in the primaries because we can't just wait till the general election. We got to press them in the primaries. So that's where I'm at with it too. Pressing people in the primaries, running candidates that actually going to address our issues. So those are my issues, specifically Black economic growth. I know some people talk about reparations, and I'm definitely pro reparations as well. However, there is other policies that impact the Black community too that I'm looking for. I know by everybody talk about HR 40, which is basically just a commission. I don't think that. I think that's kind of like placating us a little bit, but at the same time, I do think we do need a commission because not everybody had the same idea about reparations. Some people want cash reparations, as they say, cut the check. Some people talk about education, which I tend to fall back from because I actually prefer public college should be free for everybody. If that happens, then just giving it to us won't make much of a difference. So some of these issues do need to be ironed out, to be honest. But just economic issues in general. I salute and thank you for watching. In healthcare, foreign policy is a big issue for me too. My previous video, I did a whole breakdown of why foreign policy is so important to me. So those are just my issues, and definitely thank you for tuning in. And this is Say What I Mean. Don't forget to subscribe, share it. Definitely try to grow the channel, and we got some big things coming up. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.